I want to bring in Egyptian commentator and activist Mona Eltahawy and Ed Husain. He's a senior fellow from the Council on Foreign Relations and the author of the book, The Islamist. Mona, starting with you. First of all, of course, I hope all your friends and family over in Egypt have managed to stay safe over the past few days as tensions in Cairo have boiled over. But I want to ask just the very basic question for Americans and others watching at home who don't understand why all these demonstrators, who presumably many of them are the same people who were marching against Mubarak, why they would think it is acceptable for there to be a coup against somebody who was democratically elected. Even if he was a horrible leader, why the act of a coup is okay.
For many people marching in Egypt today and for the past few days, Jake, this has been much more than is this a coup or not, and was Morsy a horrible leader? It's quite simply that Morsy usurped his position to consolidate the Muslim Brotherhood and to consolidate his own power. Now, from the very beginning, when we got rid of Hosni Mubarak in 2011, Egyptians have maintained all along that anyone who tries to lead us in an authoritarian way, we will stand up against. And this is a very strong message that we also send out to the military. This is not a coup. What happened in Egypt is millions of Egyptians, many of whom voted for Mohamed Morsy, but have watched him over the past year marginalized, intimidate, and send into detention any opponents, and basically prevent Egyptians from forming the kind of institutions that we could use to stand up against him. The only avenue we had left as Egyptians was the street, and we are sending a very clear message to the military today that we will not allow them to return to rule.
Mona, there is another avenue, which is another election. You defeat President Morsy. I mean, that's... Look, I don't want to defend President Morsy, but the idea is the next election you defeat him.
Yeah, well, how could we have formed political parties when most activists and many heads of political parties were being either sent to jail or being prevented from travel or being intimidated by Mohamed Morsy? He used his own installed prosecutor general to intimidate even comedians. We had more cases of quote-unquote insulting the president under Mohamed Morsy than we had under Mubarak. So it's easy for you to say from outside of Egypt, you should have waited for the next elections. But how, when we were being prevented from creating the very political institutions that we need to lead us to the elections by the same man who in November last year consolidated amazing amounts of power to create a constitution to basically make two bodies powerful, the Muslim Brotherhood and the military. And now today we see the military, which he left unchecked, turn against him after millions of Egyptians, and this is the point now, millions of Egyptians told Hosni Mubarak, he's almost the same for me, told Mohamed Morsy that you are no longer our leader because you fail to represent us.
Ed Husain, your thoughts?
I think it's a very sad day for Egypt. This is not the end of President Morsy, nor is this the end of the Muslim Brotherhood. Mona Eltahawy is a very good friend of mine, and it's sad to sit here and see the defense of the overthrow of, however dislikable and however detested, a democratically elected president. The way to overthrow him is at the ballot box, and the Muslim Brotherhood and the military have held 5 elections thus far for various referenda, the constitution, parliamentary elections, presidential elections, and so on. And more elections were in the offing. Morsy had just gone through his first year. He had 3 more years to go. And before that, there were parliamentary elections too. The opposition has been divided. The opposition has not had a leader, a vision. And the mobilization of the masses on the streets is not to the credit of the opposition as such, but to the failure of the Morsy government. And I fear that worse is yet to come, in the sense that we have not yet seen the response of the Muslim Brotherhood or its more extreme Salafi violent cousins. They will not sit back and say, oh, jolly good job, Morsy is out of power now. They will do everything in their power to rise against military rule and the government of whoever comes next, if it's not a government that they are somehow in control of. Right. My last point would be this. If we're worried about anti-Americanism of the secular variety that your program earlier alluded to, the anti-Americanism of these mad Islamist and Salafi organizations is the type of violence that we're seeing play out in Mali, in Pakistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. By deposing a Muslim Brotherhood president, we've now disengaged the Muslim Brotherhood from the political process for at least the next few months, which will result, I'm afraid, in greater division, greater violence, and greater chaos in